All right, let's start. Hello, everyone. This is Monsef Afkar, and thank you so much for joining us in this new call of Your Divine Uniqueness. So happy to connect with you again. So thank you for your presence, whether live today, live on the call, or whether on the replay. And also very, very excited that Maureen Germain is with us on the show for the first time. I really love her message. I know her work for a few years now, and recently I've been also reading her book, Mastering Your 5D Self, and I really love how she approaches some aspects aspects of our life in a very practical way. Yet she brings like some very deep spiritual understanding and also healing of the issues that we are experiencing. And there are some really, really profound guidance, wisdom, and understanding in her book. And later we'll be talking about that as well. Today's call, it will be about mastering your 5D self. So we'll be talking about that. We'll be sharing practices and exercises on how to connect to our inner wisdom and our higher self. And also we'll have a Q&A later on the call, so where you can ask your questions. So for those of you on the Zoom app, you can, let me admit others. So if you are on the Zoom app, you can raise your hand. There is, I think, a link or button there to raise your hand, or you can write on the chat box. If you are watching on the webcast page, yourdivineuniqueness.com/live, there is also a question box there where you can type your questions. And so before we start, I would love to share with you a little bit about Maureen. So Maureens Germain has over 25 years of experience in the area of mystical and sacred traditions. Known as the practical mystic, she is a prolific teacher and facilitator of spiritual knowledge for contemporary life. As an internationally acclaimed Ascension teacher, Maureen has been granted access to a dimension that has been closed to most of humanity for eons, and she is a direct channel to source. She is the founder of Saint Germain Mystery School and Akashic Records International. Her annual program, the Ascension Institute, is a highly sought-after immersive training for evolving humans. And also she is the author of 6 books. So so that's Maureen. Welcome to the show. We're happy to have you with us.
Thank you for having me. I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun today, and I'm so happy to have so many people live that can ask questions if they want.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful. So I shared a little bit about you through your bio, but I would love if you can maybe tell us more about your message and the work that you are doing.
Okay. So I am very interested in sacred geometry, and I was one of those people that could have slept through geometry and still passed, it just like mother's milk for me. And I have found so many mystical understandings and meanings of the geometry since I began my mystical study. I've always been interested in esoteric things. Even as a child, I would read the lives of the saints when other kids might be reading comic books. I grew up on a farm, so we worked all the time and every day. I have 4 grown sons, and I am happily working with many wonderful people, clients that sign up for a session with me, and also members of the Ascension Institute. And that's really what drives the programming, because I'm constantly being inspired by what's going on in the world or what's going on in our own lives. And I'll give you an example. There's a wonderful guided meditation called 12 Points of Light that came through some very high experiences. I have dozens of guided meditations. So for those of you who have monkey mind and can't sit still, these are the ideal solution, because it gives you the ability to get to that still space and then grow from there. The guided meditations always have a purpose. So there's guided meditations to bring in the beloved. There's a guided meditation to let go of the beloved. There's a guided meditation to sell your home faster. There's a guided meditation, a couple of guided meditations to the archangels and to the Elohim. So there's lots of different kinds of purposes. And most of them have been driven either by what I needed or what my clients needed. So they're wonderful, wonderful work in addition to the books that I've written. And I write all the music for the background music of these CDs as well as the script. I say I write it, but I really want to give credit. I bring it in, it's channeled in. And we also have wonderful other tools, essential oil blends that were channeled in by Mary Magdalene that help heal emotional wounds. And they are very, very powerful. We use them every day because we never know what emotion is coming up to be healed. And that's a wonderful tool. And they come with a deck of cards that tell you, a great phrase to use. There's also a blog post. And on my blog post, I always have one free guided meditation every month. So you can go out to our website right now and get that. I also have an annual youthing event, and it's a very, very special event. It's my biggest secret to staying young and looking young. So I recommend people check that out. That's coming up on September 9th. And I also have free stuff on my website. So I have free guided meditations. There's one called Divine Government Meditation that is free forever. And in addition to the blog post freebie. And then I have a couple of meditations out on SoundCloud. And one of them is prayer before surgery. So if you have a little surgery or big surgery, even just local anesthetic, I recommend that you grab that. It's free on SoundCloud. You can download it, play it on your iPhone, on your chat. It's easy. So lots of good stuff for people.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing about that. And also, as I've been reading your book and learning about your work, I found you also you channel different beings. So you are direct channel of source, but also there are council offline. There is the Sanat Kumara and others. So I would love if you can tell us maybe a little bit about that.
Well, I've had a big devotion to Sanat Kumara. And the first time I saw the picture of the hand of God touching the hand of man, and it's a big man with a white beard and a red tunic. It was like, I know who this is. And I had his picture in my living room until I didn't have a space for it when I moved. But I had it, like 15 years where I was reminded of how much I loved and cherished Sanat Kumara, who is the master who came from Venus and pulled the earth out of her darkest hour. So these masters started coming through me, but they're all masters that I have worked with one exception. When I was in China one time, and I sat down to channel, the Lords of Time came through, and I had never heard of those beings, but they came through with such force and such intensity. They literally said, "We are the Lords of Time," and it was like, oh my gosh. I don't know who that is or what it is, but I'm very clear that I only work with beings of 100% God light. So I wasn't worried, but I was pretty surprised. And they have come through a lot, giving us understanding and insight because, scientifically we know that time is a construct, that the only time there is now. But at the same time, we act like linear time exists and that we can keep track of the past and project into the future, which we do, but not too effectively, I might add. So understanding that we could actually manipulate this construct to our own needs is very important and very powerful. There's a lot of good information from the Lords of Time.
Wonderful. So yes, so the subject today is about mastering our 5D self. So I would love if we can start talking about that and tell us your perspective about the 5D self or the 5D living.
Well, I'd like to start out with what's in the very beginning of the book called The Magnanimous Heart or the Magnanimous Dimension. Yes. And this is where we were shown, first of all, I'd like to back up and say, we're moving from a 3D experience to a 5D experience. So we are leveling up in certain ways, energetically and biologically. But at the same time, we're going to still be here. We're still going to be in this reality. And think of the movie, was it Contact, where Jodie Foster was in this device and suddenly she was having these experiences. And then later the scientist said, well, you never left the machine. And she's thinking, yeah, but I had all these experiences. So contextually, we're here, but we're elevating our vibrational data set. And what's so amazing is physically, there's not a lot of difference between 3D and 5D in the outer experience of the outer world. The difference between 3D and 5D has to do with how you react to what's around you. So in 3D, you react with a polarity or judgment. In 5D, you only see the elements that are beneficial to you or are uplifting to you. So for example, you go to see a speaker. Maybe you don't like the way she's dressed. That's a 3D feeling or comment. Maybe you don't like the sound of her voice. That's a 3D feeling. But then you listen to the words she's speaking and you love what she says. Now you're in a 5D experience because you're not receiving a bias. You're allowing yourself to be uplifted by this message, whatever it is. So that's the difference. And we're vacillating between 3D and 5D all the time, much like a clock ticking back and forth on the pendulum. And where we want to go isn't the middle, but we want to stay in that higher zone because the higher zone has no polarity. So when we're sliding in 3D to 4D, there's this polarity stuff. There, fourth dimension is a great deal more of intensity. And then fifth dimension is this place of unconditional love and peace. It doesn't mean everything's perfect. What it means is your reaction to whatever's going on around you is loving and peaceful. And also funny. One of the biggest things I've noticed about 5D is everything is funny. You get a flat tire and you think it's funny because now you don't have to go to this meeting you didn't want to go to. I could go on, but you get the idea. Now, what's so important is going from 3D to 5D is a little bit hard because we're so used to thinking in a polarity way. Fourth dimension is intensified emotion. So we get to 4D and we slide right up into fifth, or we slide into a dark place. Now, the magnanimous dimension is this new energy that allowed that portal or that nexus to open up. So instead of being like an hourglass and having a narrow point of intersection between two large bulbs, it's actually widened so you can easily slide between them. It also means that when you slide down into 3D, you have enough awareness. Oh, I'm being judgmental. Let me unhook from that. And then you slide right back into 5D. So it's much easier to stay in 5D because of this magnanimous dimension that was brought forward by the Lords of Light.
Yeah, I was on mute. So yeah, that was really beautiful. And so being like in 5D, it's not about trying to remove maybe the negative aspects, the negative part of the polarity.
Trying to remove what?
It's not about to remove the negative aspects that we see.
It's not. It's more like it's not. If we work hard to remove the negativity, we're going to have more negativity because we're thinking about the negativity.
Yeah.
Whereas if you abandon negativity and let it be what it is without judging yourself or another person, then you can stay in 5D. It's like a little bit like this. When you look at a house that needs a fixer-upper, and you look at buying this house, it's going to be a lot of work. But sometimes people buy a house that isn't in great shape and demolish it and start with a new house. So in a way, we're walking away completely from our old way of thinking. And that's really important because we can no longer use our logic to define our reality. We must use both logic and intuition. And that allows us to not only understand ourselves and the reality, but then to stay in the highest vibration that we can bring forward.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with you about that. So it's about making choice where we focus. And it depends, of course, on our vibration at that time. So
I think the most important part is
yeah,
to love yourself. And so
right.
many times it's hard to love yourself. You have judgment about maybe you mistreated someone, or you spoke harshly to someone, or maybe you talk to your kids in a very fierce way, and you realize, no, I don't need to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be like that. And so how do you unhook from that? Is you do a simple phrase called, "Dear God, show me how much I am loved." A simple phrase like that. And what happens is the energy of asking to be shown how much you are loved causes the universe to vibrate, and people call you and tell you how much they love you, or you're in the grocery store and someone says, "Oh, that's so lovely of you to do that. Thank you." And you start getting all this wonderful, yummy feedback telling you how much you are loved. So ask the question, "Dear God, show me how much I am loved." And the end result is then you will begin to love yourself more. And that is the beginning of becoming fifth dimensional.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, as you were sharing about that, I remember a part where you, like in your book, when you talked about karma, and there is no karma, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that we are not responsible. And I feel this is related to what you just shared now.
Kids that wear a uniform to school behave better. When you're in an honor program, you're expected to do the work and be in integrity. So the idea of no more karma is twofold. Number one, it helps you recognize that the game is over. And number two, it helps you get over yourself. The stupid stuff I did when I was, 20 years younger, or the mean stuff I did yesterday. It helps us get out of our own way of judging ourselves, because the number one judgment, it's either side of the same coin. I'm either judging myself because I wasn't perfect yesterday, or I'm judging you because you weren't perfect yesterday. And in both cases, they don't serve us anymore. And the judgment part has to go away. So we unhook from that whole thing. And this is why the message from Lord Sanat Kumara was so important when he said, the game is over. The game will end when there are no more players. Are you the first to leave or the last? And the thing that I like about that phraseology is, number one, it reminds me that what we're doing is a game and we can choose how we experience the game. And number two, all I have to do is get out of the game. I don't have to make anybody else get out of the game, just me. And by my getting out, I'm elevating everybody. And that's how we do it.
Mm-hmm.
And getting out of the game is hard because we have to unhook from that judgment, either the self-judgment or the other person judgment, or some of us may be doing both. I don't know, but I know for sure most people are either judging themselves harshly or they're judging somebody else harshly. And a lot of the projection on other people is because I won't deal with me. I won't fix me. So it's easier to find fault with them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think it was the Council of Nine that's also talked about that, like being judged. And it was not about trying to change others, like their opinion about us, but more just accepting that we will be loved by some and maybe rejected by others.
So when somebody confronts you, some political view, some medical view, whatever it is, and you feel the exact opposite, all you have to do is say, I champion your right to hold that belief as long as it pleases you. It basically says, I'm in your corner. I approve of you. I understand that you don't think what I think. And oh, by the way, if you want to change your mind, that's okay too. It's a very sweet way to address it. I champion your right to hold that belief as long as it pleases you. And it's got all kinds of room for shifting and changing. And every time I've ever used it in a conversation when, things got a little like there's disagreement, I would see people change and shift more towards the center. So, when somebody wants you to agree with them, you can say, I see why you think that. but I think this. And we can both be right in our worlds.
Yeah, absolutely. I think because when you say it that way, they feel accepted as they are, and they see that you don't try to change them. And in the end, this is, I think, most of them, we try to be seen and heard and accepted as we are.
Everybody wants to be validated. So when you validate their right to have that opinion, doesn't mean you agree with it. It just means, hey, I'm supporting you in your belief system. I'm not, I don't have to agree with you. Yeah.
Right. And then, like how the unconditional love can be manifested. I mean, how it is reflected when, especially when, if, for example, there is abuse or maybe not respecting boundaries, how do we approach those situations with unconditional love?
We choose to stay in unconditional love, which means unconditional judgment. So even when there's difficult situations in front of us, when we surround it with unconditional love, when we fill it with unconditional love, we create a vibe of approval, and that approval causes the energy to drop. So if you, what you resist persists, if you push against someone, they push back. But if someone pushes against you and you get out of the way, nothing happens other than they get what they want.
Yeah. Also, you talked about that beautifully. Like, I think it was, if you want to be a warrior, if you pick the sword, like, don't fight, because it will create more hatred and more like tension like that. But it's more about bringing love.
That's a really big one, because a lot of times a person is carrying cultural or ancestral anger. And so it isn't just one attack. It's, it triggers this opening of a wound that may be from centuries. So the way to unhook is to clear your ancestral baggage and to do that kind of work first. And then you're not going to have this big reaction to whatever's happening. And then the other thing is, there are many situations where people have agreed before they came in to go through certain experiences for the greater good. And these are mysteries that even I cannot explain away, other than to say, on more than one occasion in the records, a client has been told, you knew you were stepping into an abusing family and you stopped the madness. And that was what you came to do, because you knew you could do it and you knew you could recover. And the woman who was hearing this message said, oh my gosh, it's true. When my father went for the other kids, I stood in the way and offered myself. So even when you have a very horrific situation, it may be that you chose that. And it isn't, you'll notice that message did not say the woman had that coming or that she had been a perpetrator in another lifetime. It said she came in to stop the madness. And so there's a lot of you who's listening who have done the same. You come in with enough light to stop the madness and recover and be whole and continue to live good, productive lives and not be damaged by what has happened to you.
Absolutely. And in general, like the things that challenge us, like the experiences or maybe relationships, in general, this is like they bring messages for us about our mission and how we can be of service in general. Right?
Well, it's interesting. A lot of people are on the planet just to be here, just to hold light, and they don't have to do anything. And that's a big surprise, because most of us in the West think we have to be about the doing instead of the being. And, I can remember one session with a client where the record keeper said very clear to her, your purpose is to be present, to hold space for people. And she says, that's so true. It's like I'm the matriarch of the family and everybody wants to spend time in my kitchen, wants to be in my space, but it isn't like I'm doing anything, maybe fixing a little food here and there, but I'm not, on a mission to write a book or to be on a radio show or to produce some kind of magic. I'm just being. And that influence is very, very important. There's another group of people called the way showers. And that group of people are on a mission to do self-discovery and exploring. And then there's another group of people who are guardians, and they're attracted to be around this kind of movement, but they don't necessarily participate very much, but they're there and they're holding space for guardianship. And a guardian is like a sentry at a jewelry shop. The guard stands there just to tell everybody, look, we're not going to let anybody pull any fast one here. So it's a sentry holding space for nothing to infiltrate. So those are important roles. And people look at that and say, I'm not doing anything. And the record keepers say, au contraire, you are doing something. And these are some of the things you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And you talk in more details about those groups in your book. And so also, as we are talking about 5D, I would love if you can tell us about how the creation process works in the fifth dimension.
In fifth dimension, what you do is you create from a future event. So if you want to be with your beloved, for example, this is an easy one. Instead of seeing yourself happily married or living together or whatever it is your ideal would be, instead you see yourself celebrating an anniversary. And usually people clink glasses when they celebrate the anniversary. And they usually say something sweet like, I'm so happy that I found you. The other person might say, I'm so happy that we get along so well and we love all the same music, or we love the same kind of recreational activities. And that magic produces a high vibration of the sacred geometry known as phi. And those two together produce the outcome of being with the beloved. It's very easy once you get the idea. And it's built upon the premise of a concept, mathematical concept called the Phoenix sequence. And I named this concept because nobody had ever named it. And this concept basically shows that you can take any two numbers and add them together. And on the 9th and 10th iteration, it always produces phi, 1.618. And it's really funny because when I teach that part of manifestation, I have a slide that says, okay, do the adding. And I pull the numbers from the classroom. So I'm not picking the numbers. We add them up in this sequence, one after the other. And then I'll show the slide. Okay, what did you get for an answer? Get your calculator out, do the division. What do you get? And it's always 1.618. And that's because the universe creates in phi. Everything we know, everything we do, everything that grows is in the phi ratio. And the phi ratio can be best explained by the nautilus shell, by the way plants grow, by the way our bones grow. And so you start looking, where's phi in the body, and you're going to find it. When you ask, where's phi in our celestial bodies, you find it between Venus and the sun and Mercury. You could go on, and it's there. And that relationship is so powerful. That's why my picture of the Vitruvian Man is so important to me, because it represents this key concept that everything in the universe has a mathematical reason for existing. And pure creation comes from phi. Permutations come from permutations of phi. And that's a whole other story, which I won't get into.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much about that. And also about the creation process, maybe more specifically, when we are in the momentum, like all the momentum of maybe lack or maybe frustration. So how can we move? Because sometimes it feels like forcing that feeling of maybe joy and happiness. So how can we move to that?
I agree. And you don't need to force it. Because when you go to, let's say you want to find a new place to live, okay? Maybe that's something on your bucket list right now. So you're interested in finding a new place to live, but only if it's really yummy, only if it really appeals to you. Maybe it has to have a view. Maybe it has to have water, like Connie's background. So you go and stand in your mind's eye at the edge of that beach, knowing your apartment's behind you or your house is behind you. And you think to yourself, whoa, this is so yummy. And then you pretend to walk into the house and talk to somebody who you would be living with. It could be your offspring or your mother or your father. It could be your beloved, but you see yourself talking, or maybe it's a neighbor, but you're talking to a real person. And that real person is somebody who's likely to be there. So you don't make up a story about a famous movie star being in your house. You make up a story about a likely person, like your neighbor or your family member. And you have a real-time conversation. Now, the real-time conversation goes like this. I feel so fortunate. I'm so blessed to have this beautiful place. It inspires me every day. And then you hear what that person says. They say something like, I agree. This place is so amazing. And what's even more astonishing is that you manifested it. And that is all that has to be said. Now, when you hear someone else that you know would be in that space, holding that position, beloved, family, neighbor, and they say to you something that affirms this good fortune, and the amazing thing is you manifested this beautiful place, and I'm so happy to be here and that I'm your friend, like that. What happens is you shift, you change, you, for a moment, accept. Yeah, it is pretty good. And in that moment, you're telling the universe, that's where my GPS is going. And the universe conspires to make it happen. And it is amazing how quickly that can happen and how awesome it is when you get out of the way. So I would like to invite one of your guests to name something that they want to manifest. And I will show you how to do it in real time so you guys really get a firsthand experience.
Yeah, so everyone, you can,
post it in the chat, maybe.
Yeah, the chat box, or raise your hand, whatever works. Let me see.
Nobody wants to try to manifest something?
Money from...
Okay, so money isn't enough of a manifestation because you have to know what the money will do. So if you need to pay your bills, that's why you need more money. Then what you would manifest is, the first thing you'd manifest is opening the mail and not getting any of those special envelopes. Okay, now fix my Yukon. Again, it isn't about the Yukon, it's about the vehicle. And you need a vehicle that works well. Maybe it's a fixed Yukon, maybe it's something else. Life partner on my healing journey. Now you'll notice some of these I'm deliberately changing what they say they want to a more allowing description. Because think about this for a second. If you met the perfect beloved, except they had the wrong skin color, or you like redheads and the person's a blonde, all of that produces a limited version. And when you say to the universe, okay, I want to be happy, I want everything to work, all the parts of the relationship to work, and I want my partner to love me as much as I can love them. That nails it. And then you can add, I'd really like it to be a redhead, or I'd really like it to be a blonde. Maybe it's a redhead who dyes her hair red. She's not really naturally red. Okay, now I'm looking at some of the other ones. In the case of the Yukon, I would highly recommend that you pretend to see yourself in a wonderful car that runs well. And I presume your Yukon is paid for. So that may be one reason why you're not wanting a new car. So you're in a car that's paid for, that runs well, that does everything the Yukon does. and you're really happy about that. And then you tell your neighbor, I just love my car, blah, blah, blah. And they say, yeah, you get a lot done with that car. So you get validation. Now, why is that conversation important? Because it's pretty hard to go into the emotion, as Monsef has told us. But if you hear someone else validate this thing that you have as a heart's desire, suddenly your body reacts to that conversation. And there's all kinds of studies that show that a thought is just as powerful as the real thing. So if you pretend to be playing basketball and you're shooting hoops, it will improve your point average at the foul line. Okay, so let's move on to life partner on my healing journey. Okay, so there's two operators here. They want a life partner, and then they're on a healing journey. So this is going to sound wacky, but if you bring in somebody who's going to help you on your healing journey, once you're healed, maybe they won't want to stay. Maybe they want to be with somebody else that needs a healing journey. I'm trying to help you see that you should make two separate manifestations: a successful healing journey and a life partner that's a good match for me. And maybe they're on a healing journey and I'm on a healing journey, and that journey culminates in both of us being totally well, and then we get another layer of happiness. But how would you do that? You would see yourself in a conversation at a nice event, nice venue. Maybe you're having at a beautiful bar, or you're in a beautiful restaurant and you're making a toast. It's so amazing to be feeling so good. I'm so grateful for how you helped me. And then the partner would say, it has been amazing, and it's been an amazing journey for me as well. And I'm so grateful for how you helped me. You see, then there's this feeling that occurs. Okay. More flexibility in my neck. Okay, I'm looking at the note on the Yukon. That's funny. I'll come to you. In Monsef, if you want to ask me more questions, we can do that, or we can keep going on the chat. I will need a good 15 minutes to do the exercise that I'm going to take you through. But this is also an important exercise. So you call it however you wish. More flexibility.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, maybe you can take one more question.
Okay. So flexibility, actually, I want to go back to the Yukon, but I also want to take the flexibility in my neck.
Yes.
What is it that you could do that you cannot do now? Figure out what that is. And then hear yourself telling someone important to you, your beloved, your offspring, your parent, I am so happy. It's been weeks or months, and I have the full flexibility. My neck doesn't bother me. I'm feeling so good. I can actually do some of the things I couldn't do before, like riding a bike or walking without worry. Then the person, let's say it's your mom, says to you, I am so amazed. I'm so happy for you. This is a miracle, and I'm so grateful for you. So you hear that feedback, and that feedback allows you to accept, oh, it's real. And your subconscious mind makes room for that reality to occur. And you don't have what I call the wall, where you're going up to the beautiful mansion and looking at it, but you don't know how to get in. What we're doing is going in the back door. It's already yours. You're already holding that homecoming party. You're already accepting feedback about it. Okay, this is funny. I hope you enjoy my joy. Reason the Yukon was wanting to get it fixed is because it was my partner who crossed over, and he or she was not ready to let it go. The only thing left was his. So my advice, my feedback on that is to say to your partner, I don't think you can use it over there anymore. And it would be a huge gift to me if you would be okay with me using it. And have this mental conversation and just get permission to have it as yours, and then see what happens. Maybe it won't need fixing. Maybe it'll fix itself. You never know. All right, what's next, Monsef?
Beautiful. So yeah, let's take maybe we have 20 minutes, like 5 minutes, because you are offering, we have the free gifts, and also there's a link for the book. And I invite everyone to click on there is a free gift button on the webcast page. And also later on the replay page, it will be available. And the free gift is higher self connection. So, Maureen, I would love if you can tell us more about that.
Okay, so we created a lot of information on the higher self. And I will also be taking you through a guided meditation that will help you anchor in your higher self connection. In addition, then we have 3 agreements that you make with yourself to make this work. So what I'd like to do is first take people through the guided meditation, which will take a few minutes, and then describe the agreements that they need to do for themselves. And at the end of that practice period, which is 45 days, they will have accurate higher self connection that they can rely on and make important decisions on. You know, I was scheduled to be in New York City on 9/11.
Okay.
And my guides, my higher self came in and said, no, you need to fly home the day before.
Oh,
so
that's
you know,
yeah.
It's really powerful.
Yeah.
So are you ready for the meditation? Can we do that now?
Yes. Also, yeah, I recommend also Maureens Book. You will find the link also on the webcast page and later on the replay page. So there is a button called Maureens Book there also. Unless you want to share something about it before the meditation, or we go directly.
So the material that you're getting as a supplement is a series of explanations, and it also has the written agreements written out for you and explained so that you don't have to take notes. When I come back after the meditation, we can just explore this information, and then you can download the materials that will support you in making sure you succeed.
Wonderful. So yeah, let's start the meditation.
Okay. So if you can, put your feet flat on the floor and close your eyes. And I want you to go to what I call a yummy place. That would be a walk on the beach or in the mountains, or maybe it's holding a baby, an infant, doesn't have to be yours, or a pet. And allow yourself to say, I love this. I love this little one. I love this beach. Something like that that makes you really, really happy. And you'll actually feel a change in the way your energy feels in your chest. And that's what it feels like when your heart chakra starts to open. So do that now. See yourself in this situation and hear yourself say, I love this. I love being this way. And now send a beam of love and light from your heart up to your throat chakra, then your third eye, then your crown, all the way up to the 8th chakra, which sits above your head, somewhere between 1 and 2 feet. This is where the portal to your higher self exists. And now that you're there, ask your higher self to join you in your heart. And while your higher self is moving into your heart, it widens your channel, widens your ability to connect. And now that your heart and your higher self are together, you can speak directly to your higher self and say, I wish to improve my connection. No matter how intuitive you feel, no matter how plugged in you feel, announce to your higher self, I'm ready to improve this connection and make it perfect. I need your help. Higher self, give me my symbol or signal for yes. So yes can be a color or a shape in your mind's eye. It can be a sensation of energy on one side of your body or the other. Some people feel it in a unique way on their body, like an itchy ear or an itchy toe. Some people get a strange taste in their mouth. Some people hear a sound. Some people hear the word yes. Thank you. Higher self, show me again my symbol for yes. Thank you. Higher self, show me my symbol or signal for no. What does no look like or feel like, sound like or taste like? Higher self, give me my symbol or signal for neutral. Thank you. Higher self again, show me my signal for neutral. Thank you. Now open your eyes and write down what you got. Some of you will say to yourself, oh, I think I got an itchy ear, but it wasn't that big. And then you dismiss it. Don't do that. Write down what you got, even if it was faint, even if it was subtle. Put it down, because the more you practice it, then the better and more clear that connection will be. Okay, so you now have the basis for your protocol, and you figure 45 days from today. So let's say you start this practice today, and we go from the 24th for 45 days. That would put us at about the 15th of October. So write down, I'm complete with this October 15th. The benefit of knowing your end date is that you can keep practicing and moving towards that goal. Whereas if you started and then you say to yourself, well, when is this going to end? I don't remember when I was listening to Mansef. I don't remember when I did that protocol with Maureen. This way, you don't have to remember that. All you have to do is know, we're going to keep this up until the 15th. And here's the 3 things that you need to do. The first thing is you only ask unimportant, insignificant questions about actions you are going to take 30 to 50 times a day. So higher self, is it my highest and best good to wear this scarf with this dress? Higher self, should I wear this jewelry? And I'm using the word should, but in your real-time question, you actually need to say it a very specific way. Higher self, is it in my highest and best good to, and then take this action? You don't ask open-ended questions, and you don't ask about other people's stuff. You ask about your own, and it's only actions. Okay, so higher self, is it my highest and best good to wear these shoes? If you get a no, move on. Higher self, is it my highest and best good to wear these shoes? You can't ask, should I wear the brown shoes or the green shoes? Because those are no longer open-ended. Open-ended means the answer is either yes or no, or neutral. Okay, now, if you don't get an answer after the second time you ask, just make a decision. Sometimes you're already fixated on, taking a certain route to work or wearing a specific accessory with this outfit because you like how it looks and it makes you happy. Then just do it. Don't ask. If you're a smoker, don't ask if you should quit, if it's in your highest and best good to quit, because that's too important. You see, only unimportant stuff that you don't care about, that you are willing to practice. So the woman who announced that she was vegan and then asked her higher self, is it my highest best good to have meat today? And her higher self said yes. And she thought her higher self was lying to her. But in fact, your higher self was probably telling you, you need some meat. You haven't had any meat in a while. And she broke 2 of those rules. The second rule is always follow through. So if you don't want to have meat because you want to stay vegan, then don't ask. Just stay with your vegan diet. If you are willing to play, that's why it's an unimportant question. The only way it can be unimportant is if you're willing to do it. If you're willing to do it or refrain from doing it, that makes it unimportant. If you're not willing, don't ask, just enjoy. If there's a bonbon or a cookie or something you're really looking at and you're feeling like you really need to have it, don't ask, just enjoy it. Don't make everything you are approaching part of this practice. Only practice on things you don't care about. And if you can't think of 40 or 50 things to ask about in your day, then you need to make a list. And it could be something simple like, higher self, is it my highest and best good to have coffee this morning? It doesn't mean you're never going to have coffee. It means you're not having coffee this morning. Higher self, is it my highest and best good to have a croissant? Higher self, is it my highest and best good to have an egg? Higher self, is it my highest and best good to have a poached egg or a hard-cooked egg? So there's lots of ways to come up with many questions that are unimportant. If you don't like eggs, don't even ask the egg question, okay? Unless you're willing to eat eggs, even though you don't like them. Okay, so that's rule number 2, always follow through. And the third rule is no other forms of divination. No muscle testing, no cards, no second guessing with your intuition. All that gets set aside for 6 weeks. And that's because you don't want to confuse yourself. It's the same reason why you don't learn German and Spanish at the same time. So you work sequentially on unimportant things 40 to 50 times a day. What that does is build your ability to always hear and respond to your higher self. The more you are willing to do whatever it is you've asked of your higher self, the more your higher self will be willing to work with you. So it's a joint communication and a situation that gives you the opportunity to not only grow your connection, but to solidify it. And then you move from knowing or trusting, you move from trusting to knowing. Trust is that you trust that I'll show up for lunch today. Knowing is knowing the sun's going to come up tomorrow. There's a difference.
Beautiful. Thank you so much about this process and also the explanation. I love that you focused on practicing with the things that are not important because there is no pressure there, and it's much easier. Yeah, when there's pressure, it gets tricky sometimes. So yeah, it's really amazing. For me, the signs were more like I got feelings that I experienced in past experiences, like in the past. So those were the signs for me. So yeah, thank you so much. And also everyone would love to hear your feedback. What was your experience with the meditation? And yeah.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. Thank you for giving me a chance to share what I love. It makes me happy to spread this good word.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was really a joy to have you with us, Maureen. So thank you so much for everything you shared. And also thank you so much, everyone, for joining us live. Thank you for those who asked the questions, for participating in the meditation. And also thank you for those who will listen later to the replay. Again, I highly recommend that you get the free gifts that Maureen is offering. You will find the free button in both the webcast page and later on the replay page. And the free gift is higher self-connection. And then there is Maureens Book button also, which will lead you to get her book, Mastering Your 5D Self. And Lindsay, thank you for this wonderful meditation. I feel excited to do it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And those of you who want to know more about the manifestation technique based on sacred geometry can get the book, Be a Genie. And that's available on my website.
Wonderful. And,
thank you for having me. And it's a great group. It's lovely.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Maureen. And so everyone, thank you again. And with that, I'm sending you so much love. And I will see you on the next call. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.